Let's start with this one. The minute I have an image, especially a landscape, and I have a sky in it, and I can see some detail, there's texture in the highlight areas, nothing's really blown out, that's wonderful. So often I see images submitted and it has that in there, but the person submitting, the photographer, doesn't understand that that's where the eye is going up to. Let me show you the impact. If I flip this vertically, where's your eye? Your eye is here at the bottom part of this image. Well, the judge's eye will be in that upper part of the image. You tend not to see it because you photographed it and you think, oh, that's beautiful. Also, when I have a sky, I'm immediately going to Adobe Camera Raw for the dehaze slider. Whoa, look at that. Just how much impact that brought out. Another wonderful feature that they put into Photoshop recently is select sky. I want to darken this, just the sky a little bit more to bring it down, bring the eye down into the image. So by selecting sky, it will select that area and I can put a levels on that. It builds the mask. Just darken that a little bit more. It's all just a matter of taste. And these are very small images. So you get this, you're seeing some noise in them. But just want to add a little bit more, not midtones, not shadows. I want to have midtones on the burn tool and come across just a little bit up here at very low percentage. I have exposure at 10% because I want to do it a little bit at a time as I'm coming across. Now I want to emphasize the foreground. So if I hold the control key and click on the mask, I get this selection, invert it. So now I have just the bottom part. And I think I will do a saturation on that portion to bring out some of the colors a little bit more and not affect the sky. Yeah, that looks really good. Last part for this image is to emphasize where the eye should go right away. And I will do that by using the dodge tool on highlights at a low percentage so that I don't burn anything. I don't want to lose any detail in the highlight areas. But I want to draw the eye more to this one portion of the mountain in through here and the lead up to it, and even a little bit on this side. So that becomes the main emphasis when that hits the screen. And as I'm adjusting the highlights here, I see that the sky looks a little brighter now than I want it in relation to how the foreground has been improved. So I'll come back up here, darken this because I want the eye down into that center. Darken over in this area. Let's look at the difference. Open. And you might say, well, that's a little bit too much in the sky. You could change that however you want. You can go back to the hue saturation and change that. You can go to the levels. So you can do that, but look at the three-dimensionality and look at where the eye goes the minute the image hits the screen. And then when you're submitting to a competition, the judges have maybe 100 and some images and they run through them very quickly. So when that hits the screen, it has to stay in their mind a little bit so that when they start selecting the ones for
Before you close it, John?
Yes. No, go ahead.
I was just wondering in Camera Raw what texture would do to the face of that mountain.
Good question. Yes. Oh, good. But two things. When you said that for the face of that, oh, yeah. So I'm going to do it a little differently than taking it straight in and do it because it will also change everything else. Your comment, which is a good one, is let's look at just this mountain area here. So I'll do a selection of just this area of the image. And when I take that into Adobe Camera Raw, it will work only on what I have selected. So you could make more of a selection or whatever you want to do. You could include this area right here. hold the Alt key to get the minus sign, get rid of this. Take this into Adobe Camera Raw. Down to clarity, texture. Come back.
Yeah.
So here it is before, whoop, get rid of the selection. Here it is before. And here it is now. Look at the three-dimensionality of that. Very good suggestion, Joel.
John,
Thank you.
Yes.
yeah, when you go to the sky feature, how do you manage to use that as just a selection? When I go to the sky feature, I end up with skies being pulled up and of course choosing a sky, one of the skies or another. But yeah, how do you ever use it to just make a selection?
Well, two ways. Let me see if I go back up here to the front of this one. I'll look for one of the others I have in there. In this case, it's fairly clear what the sky is. And so doing a select sky just automatically selects that very easily, as you'll see.
So he's doing a select sky, which is not the same as sky replacement.
No,
I
no,
think
no.
you
this
were
is-
talking about sky replacement,
Oh, no,
and
no,
this is select
not-
sky, which
yes,
is off of the select menu.
Good point. I'm not doing,
Okay, so it's a different tab.
yes.
Yeah,
See,
I
when
was
you do,
saying sky replacement.
yeah, no, when you do sky replacement, it's over at Edit, Sky Replacement down here. I just want the sky selected. So I do Select Sky.
Okay, that answers my question. Okay.
See it? Yes, and it will select only the sky. And it does a fairly good job also if there are some trees and things in the sky. So that's how you would do it.
Thank
Interesting image. Got this off the, I don't know if you, I've suggested that you go to onepix.com and look at images. They are just superb images. I think I pulled this from there. So it's flat, yet there's detail everywhere. So that we can do lots of things with this. One is, here's the sky again. So select sky. And it's working on it. There, just did the sky without even trying to put anything in the sky, because the detail is in the foreground here that's important. We'll just darken the sky a little bit. I see it because it's so few pixels, it's not doing it really well, but that's all right. I'll just use the burn tool to darken it. I simply want the sky not to dominate the image, but yet to have whatever is up in that portion of the image. So have that nicely done. Here is the message of this image. All this other through here is very nice, and we could put some texture into that. And the woman becomes much more prominent. And how about try levels overall? Just move the black slider just to darken those shadows, but not to blow them out. And as long as you don't get into the histogram, you won't lose detail in the shadow areas. And maybe even the midtones a little bit. How easy was that overall to get this, that? This area up in the left is a little bright for me in the sense of it's drawing my eye up there, but the curve works real well and takes it up there. That would be very easy. take the burn tool on midtones, click on the pixel layer, make the brush small enough, simply darken that a little bit, and maybe even the background here to create a third portion of the image. So you have foreground, middle ground, farther back, and the light ray coming down here is sort of distracting. I would darken this corner here in the lower left, and even in the foreground here, to bring the eye up into the woman standing there. So let's look at the changes with just those from to that, get to that, but now with the additional burning, much more three-dimensional and impact.
And John, why wouldn't you use dehaze from the beginning on that one?
I was concerned, but we'll do it. I was concerned that it would take some things away from the sand also. So let's try it. Good question. And there's not a lot of detail in the sky for it to do things with it. But it actually, that did a really good job. Well, shows you multiple ways of doing it. Very nice. Get the burn tool, come across the upper portion of the image a little bit more. Down in the lower left corner, that looks good. That little highlight back in there, darken that a little bit.
After you dehaze, you might dodge the face a little bit or the figure.
Yes, good point. See, you guys are really getting into it, aren't you? That's wonderful. Come down into here. And in this case, I think I would do highlights rather than midtones. Because midtones would tend to flatten the face. This way, it'll give more detail and three-dimensionality to the face. Great idea. Look how nicely that she stands out.
John, this is Deanne. I noticed you use levels rather than curves. At least, is that because it just sort of gets the job done more directly than curves?
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. Yes. Curves. In fact, let me go to curves for a minute.
Some people just say curves is the most powerful tool in Photoshop, and everybody has an opinion, of course, but.
Well, here's the thing about curves, which bothered me. Well, first of all, you have many more options that you can do. And you can say, I want to put the curve only on one of the colors. And I just don't go to that level of things. And if you come down, let's see, where is it? I don't want it to be auto. I will have to come back to this for you because there are sliders that you can use that are a lot easier.
Try the
And-
hamburger menu.
There was a little arrow in the upper right-hand corner for a pull-down menu.
Yeah, let me try that. No.
The menu, hit the RGB button up there, the arrow, that's where you'll find.
Well, it'll give me an
Try the
individual.
little hamburger.
I'm sorry,
menu.
where it says default, open that down.
Yes, okay.
That's what you're looking for.
Well, they usually had sliders underneath here for highlight, light area, shadow, and dark shadow. And those were much easier to use rather than putting and moving the curve itself. So I often use that. I'll have to look at that more and show it to you the next time because it's not doing what I wanted to do.
That would be easier.
Yeah, much easier than doing the individual curve aspects.
Okay,
And I
thank you.
get this very similar result by just using levels, but I'll come back. to
John, I'm not sure, but Well, you've got rid of it now.
Oh, what? Well, we'll go back to it.
But
The what? Didn't hear you.
Where'd you go, Arnie?
oh, I'm sorry. This vertical column next to the curve graph, like right now you're on the line, but there's a pencil. Go down. There's a pencil and then there's another one. And I'm wondering if possibly the other parameterized version is through clicking one of those. Do they make a difference? They didn't make a difference?
No,
Oh, well, you're, okay.
I've tried them all.
I know what you're talking about. Maybe it's just on the version that's in Camera Raw. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I'll come back to it. I'll work on it.
Is it right there at the top where you have two choices with curves to the right? That one.
Density,
That's the mask. I think if, maybe you can try that little hamburger menu beside property.
properties, where's
Yeah, where
property?
Right to the
the
tab, the
Oh.
hamburger to the.
go to the right.
No. I'll find it next time for you.
Yep, thank you.
John, what about replacing that lens flare that you have in the bottom left?
Not an easy thing to do in any case. So you really want to be looking at that in your viewfinder when you are photographing.
Say, John, you're thinking of curves in Camera Raw where you can move between the one that breaks up the highlights.
Good point. Let me take this image in.
Take it, yeah, take it into Camera Raw and then go into the curves and you'll see. Yeah. And go into the curve.
Absolutely. This is the one I'm talking about.
And then you can switch back and forth between it by using the tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the better way to use curve, I think, because then I'm not doing anything on the curve itself. And you can, again, adjust whether you want the white, the reds, whatever you want. But down here, you can open up the shadows. Look at this image. I'm opening up the shadows. I want to open up just the deep shadows and change the regular shadows a little differently. These are and it's changing the curve for me. So I don't need to be thinking, oh, where do I put the cursor on the curve and what? It's just the sliders that are so much easier to use. And this is where it is. That's what I was looking for in
That's really
Photoshop.
helpful to know.
Did the
Thank you.
sliders open automatically in Camera Raw when you hit curve?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
John, I noticed you use a Camera Raw for a lot of your adjustments. Do you ever consider using the smart objects so that you can go back and change things afterwards?
Yes, I have done that. I tend to not do that, not because I don't think that's a really good approach. I tend not to go back to an image that I've done work on and say, well, I'll just change some little part. If I want to change some little part of it, rather than having to have the smart object with all its subtleties in it, I'll just work on it again. And usually I don't need to have that level of detail that a smart object will save for me. And I'm not interested in keeping history of a lot of things either, of how I do it. And since I haven't changed the raw file, anytime I'm finished with an image, I'll go up to File, Save As, and save it as a TIFF is what I will do with it. And then if I want to make changes, yes, I'll bring it back in that way. And if I use it as a smart object, if I had filters and things that have smart filters, but in that case, I just do it again and adjust it. That's just how you get accustomed to using the tools. I wanted to show you this image because I thought it was so interesting, having the little gal there and having it as this dark image which shows, well, it brings the highlight right to her in the middle there. But by opening up some of the detail and then doing a little bit more of the idea of darkening some things. Oh, it's a small tool. Darkening the foreground a little bit more and maybe up in the upper portion here. Come to the sponge tool, bring out a little more color in and around where she is. And that has a whole different look than the way they had it initially. Before I end today, I wanted to show you a flower that Larry Baker did. Such a neat approach she did to it. I'll find it, yes. Here's the original. Larry did a selection on the flowers, changed the background, and that's what he produced. Look at the difference of that. One of the things we talked about today when we were looking at that was to take it into Adobe Camera Raw and do a white vignette on this image. So we'll go to Effects, Vignette, and do a white vignette, feather it.
Nice.
And the last thing we did on it, look at the difference of just that. How beautiful this is to begin with and what he's done. Remember I talked about that highlight here. He selected the flowers, changed the background. I just did a little bit of a white vignette and get the sponge tool. Just bring out a little bit more color in the center of the flowers.
John,
Yes, sir.
do you happen to know if Larry did high key in Photoshop? Can you do high key in Photoshop?
Yes, you can. See if I do this here. Well, I'll come back to it another time, Joe,
No problem.
related to
No
the
problem.
total thing. But one of the things here is this brightness and contrast tool allows you to bring up, what I found is it brightens the brights without blowing them out, which is much better than the levels. And then you can increase the contrast any way you want. Make a selection of, in fact, let's do it. Make a selection of this, very easy to do. Get the selection tool, say, select the subject for me. It did it very nicely. Right down here, I need to include that, so bring that over. Include that little piece in there. Select inverse. And I can do anything to the background that I want to do. One interesting thing, let me play with this with a little bit. Down here at the bottom of the toolbar, I'm going to click on the first square and select a little bit of this color. And maybe I'll make it a little richer, something like that. In the background, select maybe a grayish area. Now with the gradient tool, I'll put a new layer, blank layers, and take this tool and just do that to it, and it adds the background. And if I want to have it the other way around, I'd like that color to be more on the outside. I'll just do it this way. I can do it more, maybe even more. I'm not getting the gradient that I want, but you can see how I can play with that background. And since it's on a separate layer, I can, even if I wanted to do levels on it, and flip it to that layer so that what I change will only affect the background layer. And play with it any way I want to play with it. A lot of things you can do. Hey, folks, have a good week.